got this really derpy, vacant stare on his face. If you know where the 10 additional triangles are in Rayman Arena, let me know, and if you get it right, you win a prize. Maybe. Welcome back to How Many Tries, a content free time show where we look at 3D models in video games. Today we'll be taking a look at almost every 3D model for Rayman, starting with his first model from Rayman 2, The Great Escape. This is specifically from the Dreamcast version of the game, which may be a slightly higher polygon count than the PlayStation and Nintendo 64 version of the game, but this is the only one I could find, so we're starting here. So for a game released in 1999, this is pretty standard, I'd say. Nothing too crazy going on here, other than the fact that it's, you know, disjointed. Not a lot of characters have this disconnected limbs thing that Rayman has going on. Comparing it to his sprite from Rayman 1, I'd say big improvement. I do like the design changes they made. His eyes aren't quite as bulgy anymore. You can actually see the skin behind them now. He's still got a big goofy stare, but it's not quite as over-exaggerated as it was in the first Rayman game. Most of the changes are definitely in the head and the face. The rest of the body looks pretty much the same, I'd say. Compared to the promotional art for Rayman 2, the colors, the shapes, the sizes all look about right. The proportions look good. Of course, this is the Dreamcast, so they couldn't make his nose quite as round as it is in the promotional art. It does seem like his hands and shoes are maybe a bit larger in-game than they are in the promotional art. Also, it looks like this is supposed to be a normal bandana where there's like a hole in the middle and you can see a shirt underneath it. Doesn't look like that's the case in-game. The bandana just seems to cover his shirt up entirely. I do like the texture work though. They did a good job with the shading, especially on his shirt. It's cool how dark it is at the bottom here. His shoes look good. Yeah, they did a surprisingly good job with his mouth too, I'd say. They maybe could have gotten away with this just being one connected piece here, but it's got a nice shape to it. One interesting thing to note is in most of these examples, he has these drawn on eyelids. You can clearly see the black line around his eyes. Not so much in the pre-rendered art. It's not quite as cartoony, not quite as comic booky. The shapes themselves are doing a lot more work. They don't have to like draw on the textures. Overall, pretty solid start for 3D Rayman, I would say. One thing I've noticed a lot while working on this series is they have some fun and creative workarounds, especially in some of these older games. Like, to save on polygons, they didn't bother making round models for his eyes. They just put 2 squares on here, which comes out to 4 triangles. And that way, when they put the textures on, they can just have a rounded eye texture with transparent edges on it. Just saves on a little bit of that extra precious memory. You don't really find that many of those sorts of optimizations nowadays. Rayman's model from Rayman 2, The Great Escape on the Dreamcast is 623 tries. Before we move on to the next Rayman model, I'd like to take a minute to thank this video's sponsor, Sedata, and their farmhouse L-shaped electric standing desk. I've got it set up long ways because it's also adjustable, which honestly makes it feel like a command center over here. And yeah, it took me and a buddy of mine a few hours to put it together, but it was totally worth it. You can not only adjust it between L-shape and long ways, but the height is also automatically adjustable on one side, so I can go from sitting to standing with just a button press. It's got a clean LED control panel with height presets, which makes it super easy to find that perfect spot. It's also loaded with storage, drawers, shelves, and even built-in power outlets, meaning I can finally charge all my gear without turning my setup into a cable jungle. My wife and I have been wanting matching desks for ages, and this came at the perfect time. Plus, I've been eyeing these standing desks for years, so this one kind of checked every box. If you're looking to upgrade your home office, definitely check out Sedata's standing desks. I've got both an Amazon link and a link to Sedata's website down in the description, and while the exact model I have is currently out of stock, that website link will take you to their full lineup of standing desks, so you can find the perfect one that fits your space and setup. Next, we have his model from the remake, Rayman 2 Revolution, released for the PlayStation 2 in 2001. Pretty similar to the original, just obviously more polygons. You can see his nose is a lot rounder this time around. Same thing with his shoes and his body, pretty much everything. The most noticeable change design-wise, I would say, is his pupils are a lot smaller for some reason. I don't know if this was the intended design right from the get-go, and maybe they just had to enlarge them so that you could see them better on the lower standard definition televisions from the past. I mean, the PS2 still wasn't HD, so So, I don't know. Interesting choice, I'd say. They did still use squares for the eyes in the remake, and you still can't see through his bandana. Personally, I would have thought that they would have changed that. Yeah, you can really see how much rounder his head is in particular when we turn on the wireframe here. This model is 2,036 tries, almost 4 times the amount of polygons as the original game. Next we have Rayman Rush for the PlayStation 1, interestingly released after Rayman 2 for the PlayStation 2. Rayman Rush was released a year later in 2002. For the PlayStation 1, I didn't know they were still making PS1 games in 2002. So this is a bit of a downgrade from the Dreamcast model, huge downgrade from the PS2 model. The most noticeable thing again to me is the eyes. The eyes just look super uncanny. He's got this really derpy, vacant stare on his face. Rather than the strands of his hair being modeled separately, they're just sort of drawn on now with the textures. His mouth is still properly modeled. That looks pretty good. And you actually can sort of see through his bandana in this game, even though the back of it is sort of detached from the front of it for some reason. Probably easier to animate that way. I like his Pac-Man gloves. Still some pretty decent shading going on here. Not much else to complain about. You can tell this is a very low poly model though. This Rayman Rush model is just 241 tries. Next we have Rayman M, released later that year in 2002, or Rayman Arena as it was known here in the States. This is from the PC version of the game. This is a bit of a step down from that PS2 model. I'd say it looks closer to that first model from the Dreamcast game. Actually, looks nearly identical. He's got the big pupils again, same expression. Is this the same model? Pretty darn close. That one was 623 tries. This one is 613, 10 triangles less. I'd say the bandana looks maybe slightly better than it did in Rayman 2. Everything else looks pretty much the same to me. Where are those 10 additional triangles? In the hands, maybe? Oh. If you know where the 10 additional triangles are in Rayman Arena, let us know in the comments. Let me know, and if you get it right, you win a prize. Maybe. Probably not. Next we have Rayman 3 Hoodlum Havoc, released for the GameCube, PS2, and Xbox in 2003. Now this is a cool looking dude. His hair looks more like hair this time around, not just like these weird yellow antenna on his head. You can see it's even got these little spikes in the back here. His eyes are a bit more expressive. Some slightly more detailed textures. The most noticeable design change though, other than maybe the hair, is he's got a hoodie now instead of a red bandana. It's just a purple hoodie with a red hood on it. At least I'm assuming that they're attached. They look like they're attached, maybe. And it's got some little red pull strings on it. Nice touch, I like it. Fun little design change. And his shoes got a bit of a design change. They don't have the white stripe on them anymore. Instead they got this little orange swirly-do. There are actually some textures on the bottom of his shoes now. That looks pretty good. I don't know, I kind of preferred the older shoes. These sort of look like cool robot Mega Man shoes on the left here. These look like Deku nuts or something. Maybe like side-by-side VR pods. You know, like those ones that they get into after the end of Season 1 in Yu-Gi-Oh! His pupils are round this time, and they're not just textures. You can actually see where they modeled on his pupils. That's interesting. Polygon count is pretty similar to the Rayman 2 remake model. That was 2,036 tries. This model is 2,206 tries, so a couple hundred more. Then we have the dark years. Rayman Raving Rabids, released for the PC, the Nintendo Wii, the Xbox 360, and the PS2 in 2006. This model's from the PC version of the game, and it's good. The colors are sort of somewhere in between the darker orangier tones from the earlier games and the lighter skin tone from Rayman 3, which I think looks pretty good. It's a nice in-between. He's still got the cool hairstyle, the hoodie instead of the bandana. The shoes look a bit better this time around. The textures aren't quite as muddy as they were in Rayman 3. Other than that though, these models are starting to look pretty similar, especially looking at the wireframes here. They look nearly identical. The Rayman's Raving Rabids model is 2,456 tries. I didn't even know this, but apparently Rayman Raving Rabids also got a Nintendo DS release, as well as a Game Boy Advance release, all in 2006. So for a DS game, a system that's mainly known for its 2D games, I would say, It had a few notable 3D games, but in this time period, Nintendo was still mainly doing two-dimensional stuff on their handheld consoles. So with that in mind, this looks pretty good. I'd say it is probably the worst of all of the models we've seen so far, but you know, it's a DS game. So with that in mind, I think it looks fine. Enough. Probably about as good of a job as they could have with the technology. Design-wise, looks pretty much the same. Most noticeable difference, I'd say, is the designs on the shoes are a lot darker. Everything else looks pretty much the same to me, aside from the significantly lower polygon count. This model is 257 tries, which is actually about 20 triangles more than the Rayman Rush model. With that in mind, I think Rayman Rush might have done a slightly better job. I don't know, maybe not. This guy's pretty derpy. They're about the same, I guess. Next, we have our first fully high-definition Rayman model from the Xbox 360 version of Rayman Raving Rabids. And yeah, this definitely looks HD. Look at how smooth and round that nose is. His hands look really good. This is the first time they haven't looked at least somewhat blocky. His body looks really good. You can even see all the little details on his strings on his hoodie here. Oh, even the texture work on the shirt. This is the first game where you can see the individual stitches on the clothing. Even on the hood here, you can see the little rings that the strings come out of. Very solid looking model. Surprisingly large amount of detail on the soles of his shoes there. Yeah, now that the shoes are like HD, they're starting to grow on me. I kind of like them now. These cool buttons on the side, these ridges on the back, definitely growing on me. The mouth looks good. I didn't mention this earlier, but in case you were curious, Rayman has had teeth since Rayman 3, it looks like, is the first time they gave him actual teeth in-game. The HD Rayman Raving Rabids model is 7,640 tries. I only have the Wii version of the Rayman Raving Rabids 2 model, which is a bit of a step down, but not too bad. This guy's got another really just derpy look to him. Look at this guy. What a goofy guy. From the back he looks fine. Still pretty cool. But yeah, the front, that is quite the stare. 2,365 tries. And lastly, we have the Rayman Trophy from Super Smash Bros. For Wii U, released 7 years later in 2014. And perhaps surprising no one, easily the best looking of these models. I mean, just look at that lighting. That is some good lighting. Although if I had to pick one thing I don't like about this model, it's the eyebrows. Those big, thick, black eyebrows. He sort of had them in earlier games, but they were more like eyelashes before. Now they're clearly big, thick eyebrows. Almost looks like one big unibrow. A little gap in the middle there. But since they're clearly eyebrows now, does that mean Rayman dyes his hair? I'd be curious to see what this would look like with the eyebrows being blonde like his hair, or with his hair being black like his eyebrows. Other than that, pretty solid model. Very expressive. He's got a lot of fun details in his mouth here. Giant grin, big teeth. The hair looks good, the hands look good, body looks good. Although, I kind of preferred the strings from the previous two games. Those had some fun details, whereas now they just kind of look like plain purple strings with purple corks on the end of them. And the shoes are fine, I guess. I guess they decided they also didn't like that swirly design, just when it was starting to grow on me. Now they're kind of plain, look like they're stitched together in the middle there. I don't know, the more I look at it, not sure it's my favorite. The eyes are kind of fun. Very Animaniacs-esque. The Smash Bros. For Wii U model is 12,258 tries. It's funny, I went into this thinking that the Smash Bros. Model would easily be my favorite, but after looking at it up close, I think my favorite might be the Rayman Raving Rabids 1 model, specifically from the Xbox 360 version of the game. That was like the perfect in-between. He doesn't look too derpy, he's got a good amount of polygons, he's got some fun design things going on, like the strings on his hoodie and these cool shoes. Just overall, very solid model. But what's your favorite? Let me know in the comments. Also, let me know who you'd like to see one of these videos on next. And if you'd like a shout out at the end of each video, perhaps consider joining the Patreon or as a member here on YouTube. We just have one member on YouTube at the moment, so big shout out to Jay Lisa. Thank you so much for becoming a member. Feel free to subscribe if you like the video, and as always, thanks for watching.